folks, and welcome to this week's show. And back by popular demand, we've got Jeremy. And for the first time round, we've got Pete.
Hello.
And as you can see, we're going to be focusing on the Beatles, but not the Beatles as we know and expect and love, but the post-Beatles from 1970 onwards, the top 10 songs. So not an easy choice, because all four of them have got quite a considerable back catalogue, and it's took ages whittling them down. It's been an absolute mare. So before we go through the whole thing, let's just go through in terms of how we got into the Beatles. Oh, sounds a bit daft saying it really, because they're the most popular band of all time. Pete, how about yourself?
Well, I was the tender age of 9, growing up in a little village on the Northumberland coast. And my auntie, she had a few Beatles. She loved music, my auntie Pat. And she had the Red Album and the Blue Album. And like I would hear the songs as a kid, and it was like, oh, I just love this. So I think I must have snaffled the Red Album and the Blue Album from her. And I used to, I had an old dance set record player that I played them on. And I used to play a cricket bat or a tennis racket along with the songs. And I eventually got a guitar. And just taught myself a couple of chords. And all I played for the first couple of years of me learning the guitar was Beatles songs. I had a book called The Complete Beatles. And all the chords were completely wrong to all the songs. It was all in the wrong key and everything. So I've still got the book upstairs, and it's got all the keys like written in pencil, the real keys. And that's how I taught myself the guitar. And I've loved the Beatles ever since. Obviously, my music taste has broadened, but it's a band I can always go back to. Never, ever get bored of listening to the Beatles.
Yeah, excellent. Wow, that's it. I wasn't expecting that. That's very different. Jeremy, how about yourself?
Well, I was born in 1964, so that's when the Beatles broke in America, and my parents seemed to get on it right away. My mom told me that when I was 1 year old or so, she used to play a single of I Want to Hold Your Hand to wake me up from my nap in my crib. So I always feel like the music just went into my DNA from there and just became a part of my life. And they were pretty good about just buying the records as they came out. Eventually, as I grew a little bit older, when I was around 5 or so, I think was when I really started to distinguish between albums and moods. But there was still a big gap in how I understood the solo Beatles relating to, it all seemed to be one thing. The solo Beatles relating to the Beatles. And then among my first records were Beatles records. And I just got more and more, once you have it and you own it yourself and you can kind of start to understand what went into making it, it just grows. And I've always been a massive Beatle fan. I used it to introduce my kids to music. I think there's something about the Beatles where maybe not every single style of music, but a lot of what music can do is contained in their catalog. And when you find something you like in there, then you can shoot out from there and find something else that does that. And then you get introduced to a wider and wider world of music.
Excellent. Well, I've never not known them. It's when I was a little kid, my mum had every single, apart from Love Me Do, bizarrely. My mum had every single, so we'd hear them quite regularly in the house. It was always like them, the Supremes were the one that we played the most. But it was, we had all the singles. But for me, it was I was about 71. Me and my brother used to watch the Beatles cartoons. And so it was all the early stuff. They'd play all the songs. We watched the cartoons. We knew all this. We just knew them. We sort of knew all the songs. It was probably, I don't know how you do it. We just knew all the songs. So from day one, really, from being a little kid, just sort of knew them all the time. There were certain singles as well. We had certain Paul McCartney singles as well, post Beatles, that we played a lot as well, which you'll get a mention soon. But yeah, they've just always been there. I mean, the fact that the White Album was #1 when I was born as well was something, so it's always been something. So yeah, always loved them. They're one of my favorite bands, top 5, top 6 band, without a shadow of a doubt. And probably the most important band, I would say. So yeah, it mean an awful lot. So folks, we're going to be doing the top 10. This has been an absolute killer. It really has. We're trying to narrow some of the songs. There's loads of great songs left out, which we'll mention at the end. And hopefully, I think I get the impression that there'll be a number of crossovers where people have picked songs that we would like to have picked. And some interesting things that I didn't do. So, for example, before we start, I didn't put like sort of things like say on, for example, like duets and stuff, which there's some really great songs I could have put on, but thought, or the Travelling Wilbury song I kept away from, even though I know George wrote it. It's a great song, so I thought, no, I'll not put that in, but there we have it. Right, Pete, you're going to go first. So what do you have in at number 10?
Well, I thought he should be in there. As a member of the Beatles, I've got number 10 as a Ringo song, and it's a song written by John Lennon. It's called "I'm the Greatest,"
Oh, right.
off what is a very good album. So the album's called Ringo from '73, and I think it's the opening track on the album. And Lennon, I think, had written it for himself, but then he sort of doctored it with the lyrics about Billy Shears and all this, and it perfectly suits Ringo. Like, it's just totally his style, quite a slow, laid back number. It's a great opening track for what is an excellent album. And so John Lennon plays on it. I think George is on it as well. So you've got 3 Beatles on there. You've also got Billy Preston is on there. So you've got 4 of the 5 people who were on the sort of Get Back sessions. It's just a fantastic song. It mentions he's like growing up in Liverpool, and um, it, it's a funny sort of juxtaposition. It's like Ringo saying, "I'm the greatest." It's not you would expect from Ringo,
Yeah.
but it really works. It's a good fun song, but it's a class song musically. Like, I think it's a great way to open that album, and it's my opener for this top 10 of solo Beatles tunes.
Interesting choice. A good choice. Yeah, I like that. Like that.
Great
Jeremy,
choice.
what have you got in at 10 then?
I have Ringo as well. And it's funny, when I was assembling the backdrop behind us, my daughter asked me, who's your favorite Beatle? And I told him, I'm a John guy. I've always been a John guy. And I said, wait a minute. No, but when I was a kid, I was a Ringo because he's so appealing to kids. The hangdog expression, he's almost like he's a character in a way the others weren't. And also then there's Yellow Submarine, the songs he sang. So I really always enjoyed his stuff. It's kind of, there was a downward slide, but we won't go there. So I'm going to start with my number 10 is It Don't Come Easy. Really terrific song. It's a little bit tougher and stripped down than where Ringo went. I also think it represents that beautiful songwriting and friendship between him and George. Because we know that George helped him with Octopus's Garden. We know that George helped him with It Don't Come Easy, even though he's not
got admitted years later, didn't he, that he basically helped him quite considerably. Yeah,
and he's also on the record. It's just a great performance. It's just a really good rock song. Horns, and you got Gary Wright on piano. George Harrison's guitar sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And Ringo's drumming, this is before he was using a second drummer, and it just has that really crisp, clear Ringo sound on it. Really catchy song, but it's a little tougher. Like I said, it's a little more emotional and a little direct, kind of saying, well, it isn't always easy to be Ringo, the lovable mop top. And obviously that's a theme that will come up with some of the other solo Beatles. But so it's a really great song. I remember hearing it, loving it as a 5-year-old, love it now.
Yeah, well, my number 10 is It Don't Come Easy as well by Ringo. I think it's a great song. It was, again, another song that was recorded when the Beatles still existed, just before they officially broke up. So recorded in March 1970, but not released till the following year. And as you've said, you've got George on, you've got Klaus Voormann on there. You've got the guys from Badfinger as well. And this also sounds a bit like early Lindisfarne as well, or maybe that's the other way around. But it's definitely got that feel about it, and it's quite melancholic as well. Just a lovely, lovely song. And if they'd done it, it's always the surmisation of what would happen if they'd done another album. This song would have been on it. It would have definitely been Ringo's contribution to it. It's a fabulous, fabulous song. It works really, really well. So yeah, it's had to be in my top 10. So there we go. It Don't Come Easy. Okay, Pete. So what have you got in at number 9?
Well, this is the first of the John Lennon songs that I've got in my top 10. It's one of his later songs. he wrote it in 1980 and it was released on the Double Fantasy album. It's the song Woman. I think like my top 10's quite soft and mellow. I haven't put much rocky stuff in. I don't know why. They did some great rockers after the Beatles split up, but I almost chose as a song on Double Fantasy, "I'm Losing You," which I think is a great song. I love the guitars on that song. I love his vocal, but "Woman" I feel is a real touching tune. He wrote quite a few songs for Yoko over the years, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful song. I play it. I do play the guitar and sing myself. So when I do gigs, "Woman" is quite often on the set list. It's a lovely song to play. It's got some great chord changes. Yes, and it was also very poignant for me. Like as a big Beatles fan, it was the song that went to #1 after.
Did yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like January 1981. It ended up #1 in the UK anyway. So it was nice to see John Lennon on Top of the Pops, and it was awful to see John Lennon on Top of the Pops. So yes, "Woman" is my number 9.
Yeah, it's a great song, and not many people do that in the pubs. It's such an unusual song to do as well. It's a great song. That's just on the outer edges of my top 10. So yeah, that's a great song. I love it. Jeremy, what have you got at number 9?
Well, number 9 is also my first John Lennon song, and it is number 9, "Dream," which I've loved ever since I was a kid and heard it on the radio, and then eventually got Shaved Fish compilation album. It's on there. Just, it's so pillowy. It's just so smooth and beautiful. And the clever touches, the backwards voice, when someone called out my name and you hear somebody say John, and the next time they do it, someone called out my name and it goes, no, it's just little production touches like that. And just the melody is great. It sounds like a dream in many ways. He said it came to him in a dream. He disparaged it and said it was too easy. It was just an easy thing that he did one day. But I just think it's a beautiful song. And it also has that crazy bawa kawa puse, which came in the dream and doesn't mean anything. But when you're a kid, you're trying to parse out this stuff. What does it all mean? But it really is just a dreamy song. It does what it says in the title, and just beautiful. I think also, like "Woman," it proves that John Lennon could write a great melody. It's always, Paul who gets the credit as being the Mozart of our age. But John really could crank out a nice melody.
The slide's lovely on it as well. It's just got a lovely effect on it. As you see, it adds to that dreamlike sort of feel to it.
Was that done during the Lost Weekend?
It might be.
Yeah, I think so.
So is that May
on the Walls and Bridges album?
Yeah.
Which is a great album, actually.
I never thought of that, actually, because it was, the weekend was 18 months, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Very
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had some great players on there, too. Jim Keltner, Bobby Keys.
Yeah.
Klaus Vormann. He's working with the best people. Nicky Hopkins.
Yeah.
Top musicians.
Just a great song.
Well,
lovely.
Great stuff. Nice choice. Lovely choice again on my outskirts of mine. My number 9, an unusual one. I've gone with George, and I've gone with Bangladesh, which I absolutely love as a song. I think it's so catchy. It's such an unusual, obviously, the topic was very political in terms of what was going on and them trying to get independence. The whole sort of theme was based upon independence, and Ravi Shankar had asked him to sort of help out with what was going on in terms of the tragedy of the country at the time. And then obviously we have the huge concert, a triple album, if I remember rightly, that was recorded, which was very brave in those days. But it's just such a good tune. It's got Leon Russell on, it's got Ringo on. What more do you want? And of course it fits in with the whole George and the whole sort of the political side of George as well. I think it works really, really well, as well as the sort of religious aspects. I think it just works really, really well. It's such a catchy tune that I remember hearing the first time thinking, I didn't know it. I didn't know it. I didn't know it was. I knew it wasn't a Beatles song, so I couldn't figure out where it was from. And I knew it wasn't off his first solo album, and it was just brilliant. It was later put onto on one of his solo albums, but it's just fabulous. Really, really top tune. So yeah, my number 9 is Bangladesh. So there we have it. What have you got at number 8, Pete?
Well, I'm sticking with George. This one's off, for me, was his best solo album, All Things Must Pass. I'm sure there'll be a few songs off All Things Must Pass. It's Isn't It a Pity? Just an incredible song. The way this song builds, it's very Beatlesy. It is quite sort of Hey Jude. It's but the chord progressions, it just works so well. There's a few like upbeat songs on All Things Must Pass, but this is one of the slower ones, and I really do just love the way it builds and builds and builds. And with Phil Spector producing, you do get that, the sound, the wall of sound. Yes. I just love this song. And isn't it on All Things Must Pass twice? And
Yes,
he put 2 different versions on there.
yes.
Obviously a song that George himself loved. And I was reading about it just the other week. I think he written it quite a few years earlier.
Well,
So
I think it was one of them songs that forwarded for the Beatles, and they just kept rejecting
Yeah.
songs,
yeah,
didn't they? You
no,
know?
One of the portfolio of songs he brought to the White Album that didn't make it.
yeah. So a mistake on their part for me.
Definitely,
I think it's
definitely,
a fantastic song.
Some
definitely.
good cover versions of it too. With I think Nina Simone did a pretty powerful version of it.
Oh, I've not heard that one.
Yeah, interesting. The White Album could have been a triple album, really, couldn't it? The amount of great stuff
Yeah.
that they didn't put onto it. But there you have it. Jeremy, what have you got in at number 8?
Number 8, I'm flashing forward to 2008 and the Electric Arguments album by Paul McCartney and Youth under the name The Fireman. This was the third album they did, I believe, but the first one that had any vocals or rock instrumentation on it. I thought it was a knockout album. I still think it's the best thing he's done in the 21st century. There's other songs that are good off other albums, but this is the most consistent thing he released. So the song I'm picking is Sing the Changes. It's just an uplifting, crisp, inspirational kind of song that just works. It just sounds natural and it flows. According to him, he wrote it in the studio on the spot. He plays all the instruments. All Youth did was make sure everything sounded good and maybe focus him a little bit on keeping things concise and tight. It's just a beautiful song, and I love that whole album. So when I looked at this list and I thought, I want to get that in there, because I also think it's been slightly downgraded in terms of the impact. He doesn't talk about it much these days. I don't know if he does any of these songs in concert. He doesn't include them on his compilations. So it really should not be a lost album. It's a great record. And Sing the Changes was, I believe, released as a single and did pretty well. And a lot of people liked it. Now you don't hear anybody talking about it. So that's my number 8.
Interesting choice. Well, my number 8, and I've said to the lads before the show, I had 2. So I'm going to tell you what one of them was, and I'm removing it. I was torn. I was torn between Cold Turkey, which I'm removing, and it is brilliant. But I'm going to go with Instant Karma. It's just a great song. Recorded January 70, released February 70. The Beatles were still existing. And you were seeing like as if karma was almost like an instant cup of coffee, and you felt the effects there and then is basically the sort of general message of the song. It's got George on guitar, Alan White on drums, Klaus Vormann on bass. The sound's excellent, and I'm not a huge Phil Spector fan in terms of the sounds he did with the Beatles and Lennon sometimes. So, I mean, the original sound on Let It Be atrocious for me, like, but that's by the by. But I do like the sound on this, actually. Ironically, it works really, really well. That little bit of echo going on. Lennon loved the echo on his voice. He always loved that sort of rock and roll sort of sound. And it works really, really well. And they just he sounds rejuvenated on it. It sounds really sort of, the 60s have gone. We're into the 70s. This is a new sort of sound almost, really. And it's sort of kicking off with a sort of rock tune, really. It's a top song, absolutely fabulous, instant karma. And I remember them watching the clip on Top of the Pops later on in life, because I don't recall it from 1970, but and it's fabulous. It's really, really good. It looks really, really cool with his cropped hair and yogos there, and they look great. They look fantastic together. So yeah, really, really good. Instant karma.
The drums on that song. I think it's the drums make that song. I love the drums, Alan White.
Well, he's a local lad as well, Alan White, isn't he? He's from up
right?
our way. Because I recall teaching somebody many years ago in my first job, it's like Chesney Street way, and he goes, "Oh, my uncle's a drummer in a band," and it turned out to be Alan White. But that's by the by. So yeah, my number 8, Instant Karma. What have we got in at number 7?
So this is my first Paul song, and this is off. For me, it could have been a Beatles album, Band on the Run. It's the song Jet. I remember hearing this. It wasn't like I was 6 when this came out, so I probably didn't hear it when it first came out. But I wasn't very old when I heard this, and I just, when your ears just pick up on something, when your ears it's just like a magnet. It's just bang. Like, I absolutely love this. The lyrics don't make a great deal of sense.
Yeah, not at all.
But a lot of McCartney's don't. I don't think he ever.
Wait, you mean the Major wasn't a
suffragette? But I think it was just named after his dog.
Yeah, I've read dog, I've read horse.
No,
so, yeah,
some
who
sort
knows?
of black animal, anyway. Yeah. But yeah, the lyrics don't need to make sense. It's just a great rock and roll tune. Again, another one I love to play on the guitar, like all these sort of suspended chords. It's just fantastic. And it's a song that he has consistently played, like, throughout his live career. Like, he's still touring now at the age of 80 whatever. And I'm sure it's still in the set list. It's a fantastic song.
I saw him about 10 years ago, and he did it then. His voice was great then.
Yeah,
seems to have dropped in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
I think it's the years I'm going to use. But, hey, he's 80 years of age. I mean, for God's sake, I mean, we are asking a bit much, really, aren't we?
Yes.
He's still bringing joy to people, I guess. But
yeah,
he was
up 3 hours. He was unbelievable. He really was brilliant. Yeah.
And he does an hour sound check before as well.
That's right.
Fine.
Jerry, what have you got at number 7?
Number 7 is my first George song, and it is the title track from that masterpiece, monster piece, 3 album set that was him just disgorging everything he had held back. What an incredible amount of material was on there, and so good. I love the Phil Spector sound. Definitely needed work, I think, but it was remastered in the early 2000s on iTunes, and that's the version that I eventually got. I used to have it on vinyl. I sold it because the sound was so thin. It was thin and big at the same time. It was not great. Maybe it was a bad pressing, but it was also just kind of in trash condition, so I got rid of it. But I love that album, and I love all it's kind of a rock orchestra. Almost every song has like 3 keyboard players on it, and 2 drummers and 2 bass players, and just all these people. It's like Derek and the Dominoes and Delaney and Bonnie, and they're all together in one room. That's why I even like the Apple Jams on the 3rd disc, because it's just something you don't really get to hear.
That never gets played off me.
That many people just jamming together in a room. But All Things Must Pass is such a gorgeous song. It sounds like the sun coming in through a window. He's just so good at capturing that natural feeling of life. And the demo version that he did for the Beatles was gorgeous too.
Yeah.
And I remember when they weaved that into the Love collection, you remember they did for Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah.
And I was listening to that in the car with a friend, and that part came on, and he just goes, George. It's just such a gorgeous song, and it's very, very well realized on this album. The way those, the guitars just kind of slide in from out of the sky. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I love that early 70s sound in general, all the people working together. Bobby Whitlock, Billy Preston, Ringo, Jim Gordon, Bobby Keys, Jim Price, and of course, Eric Clapton, one of his partners in crime at the time. Pete Drake, for better or worse, Pete Drake on pedal steel, Billy Preston. I mean, it's a rock orchestra, like I said.
Proper musicians
It
as
just
well,
sounds
the top,
fantastic.
cream of the
What a
crop.
great. I mean, I could have picked many songs from this album, and I may not be done yet. No spoilers, but that is my number 7.
Well, my number 7 is a George song, and I've gone with "Give Me Love," which I think is just fantastic. It was number 1 in America as well, which I didn't know about until earlier on. It's a great song.
Catchy stuff.
Beautiful, really catchy song. It's a really simple song. Sometimes simple songs are the best ones. Simple song about love. It's a song between George and God. So following on to the "My Sweet Lord" sort of theme, if you like. Again, it is really, really simple but beautiful. Really sort of warm production on it as well. Features Jim Keltner, Nicky Hopkins, Klaus Voormann, Gary Wright. So it's the same old usual band of suspects. They seem to all flip between sort of George's and John's band generally, because Paul plays everything else himself, doesn't he? In his generally with his band, with a couple of exceptions. But again, as I say, it's just dead simple and really, really catchy. So yeah, "Give Me Love," George Harrison, number 7. What have you got at number 6, Pete?
Well, yeah, well, like we've talked about, like the Phil Spector, the big production, but Lennon's, I think it was the first album that he released after the split up of the Beatles, was Plastic Ono Band, and it's really stripped back. It's not full of the big production songs, and the song I've chosen is "Love." I think I said earlier, like I've chosen a few soppy songs, and it doesn't get much soppier than this. But I think there's like a guitar, a piano, and a vocal, and it's the simplicity of this song, the lyrics so simple, and it just says so much in so few words. It it really touches me every time I hear it. I must have heard it hundreds and hundreds of times in my life, and I never fail to be touched by this song. The way it sort of fades in and just fades out again, and it's like, wow.
He sounds really vulnerable on it as well, doesn't
Well, if
he?
I just listen to say that, yes, he does on most of that album, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the album I think is absolutely breathtakingly good. I really, really do. It's an incredible album. But he sounds super vulnerable on it, and it's without any massive production on it. It's just beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolutely perfect.
there was a few songs from that album I could have chosen, but
totally agree.
I plumped for that one because it does just get us there.
No, great choice. Yeah, excellent. Jeremy?
I'm going with "Live and Let Die," the Paul McCartney
right,
James Bond
excellent.
theme. I could go into the nostalgic part of it, which is that "Live and Let Die" was the first Bond movie I saw in the theater as a 9-year-old kid, and became an instant James Bond fanatic. Still love my James Bond stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
And the idea that it was a Beatle doing the theme song, it just hit really hard. It's a fun song. It's another one where the lyrics don't mean too much, but they sound good, and the arrangement is just spectacular with that little reggae breakdown in there, and the way it starts off almost like a little folk song, and then it just gets huge. George Martin at his best, just putting everything into it. One of my favorite stories about it, though, is that they recorded it and they sent it down to Albert Broccoli, the producer of the James Bond films, and he goes, "This is the demo, right? We're going to get Shirley Bassey or somebody to sing this, right?" Because the idea of having a rock song open up a Bond film was unheard of at the time. So, but they convinced him that if you want my song, it has to be me over the opening credits, and he got it in there. Just a cool song. Yeah. Paul having as much fun as he ever had, I think, writing a song and putting it together. He also disparaged it a little bit too, though. He said it was like a job of work. He had a title he had to fit in there, and That's not always the easiest thing. So he approached it like a craftsman. But from the point of view of the listener, it's just a wild, fun ride. Love that song.
I think the strings make it as well, don't they? Because the strings almost mirror the whole action sequences in the Bond films.
Do do do.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Yeah, and all that in and out of, but it goes in and out of sort of tune almost. It's brilliant. Very, very clever.
Then the little reggae bit in the middle, because I think part of the film was set in the Caribbean, so you had to get the little reggae section.
Exactly.
Now, I think Linda not write the reggae bit? I think Linda may have come up with the reggae bit in the middle of the song.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, something I remember reading at some point.
I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so
I think it was number 2 on my list of the James Bond theme songs ranked.
Yeah. Well, Thunderball for me, like, well, there you have it. Yeah, but it's great. It is great. Right. Well, my number 6 is, this is really hard now because I was really torn between a number of songs, and I see I would have thrown in maybe something like CCC or whatever, but I didn't. So I've gone with Band on the Run. Yes, we've heard it a million times. It's really catchy. What's it about? I don't know. It could be about being trapped. Who knows? But it's musically in 4 parts as well, isn't it? But it's just very, very clever, very, very catchy. Obviously from a great album as well. But it's just such a great, great tune. Everybody knows from that opening little guitar riff when it runs down at the beginning. We all know exactly where it is, and everybody's waiting for the guitar strum to start coming in, and then people just start singing along to it. If you put it on in a bar, I'm sure I know Pete plays it. Yeah, everyone's just waiting for the chorus, and everyone just starts chirping in and singing along. It's just such a great sing-along, joyful tune. So yeah, that's I don't know how much more to say about it, really. My number 6, Band on the Run, an absolute classic. So Pete, what have you got at number 5?
I've got one of the a bit of a later Paul song, Jenny Wren.
Yes, good album as well, isn't it?
It's, so for me, it's like Blackbird number 2. It's probably for Paul as well. Beautiful, like acoustic guitar tune. I don't know if my sort of love of acoustic guitar like influences my choice of songs, but Blackbird is one of my favorite Beatles songs, and Jenny Wren is one of my favorite Paul songs. Like, he's just got a way with the melody. He's got a way with like the way these chords, like the descending chords on the guitar, the little falsetto parts that he adds into it. Lovely, lovely little song from a great album as well.
It's a really good album, isn't it?
Aye. So some of these albums, like, hit and miss. There's always at least 1 or 2 great songs on all of Paul's albums, but it's not very often you get the consistency.
Yeah.
And I think that he got back to it there. I can't remember what year it came out. Fantastic album. I love it. So yes, Jenny Wren for me.
Yeah, because I was going to pick Fine Line from that album. Yeah, it's a great album, a really, really good album. He's an unusual player,
that was
isn't he?
Pretty solid album.
Because I've just learned to play Blackbird the other week, and well, you don't realise how when he's playing it, if you play it properly, does this weird thumb thing. When you're picking it, you're rolling down. He's got this little sort of weird thing going on. He's such an unusual player. It's not very, very different. Great, obviously.
Yeah, and
great
remember
song.
he's playing.
Yeah, exactly. Right, Jerry. What have you got in next then?
Now we move into the Plastic Ono sound. My choice from that album at number 6 is Isolation. I just think the way he's confronting these utterly painful subjects, but with this lightness of touch. When you listen to the way he plays piano on that song, it's a great example of his piano style. It's kind of bluesy, but then he just hits that little filigree at the end, and it just kind of helps you relate to the subject matter more, I think, because he's really singing about how he's so rich and famous that he can't even be with people anymore. And it's kind of crushing him, being isolated in this way from society, from people. just being lonely, coming in with that. And then, you know, he's got that huge bridge, you know, after you cause me so much pain, you know, you're just a victim of the insane, you know, it's just really powerful. I've heard a few good covers of it as well. And I think Spoon might have done it. So it's just a really well-written song. And I love the whole sound of that album. Like you were saying, it's so spare.
Yeah.
Ringo's drumming on that album is some of the best drumming of all time. He just seems to connect with the emotions of each song and only play what's necessary. There's no fat on that album whatsoever.
It's miles better than the Let It Be album, which comes out roughly about the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the best albums I think of all time, really.
Yeah,
probably my number one Beatles solo album, if we wanted to get real.
Yes, I think it's probably mine. Although Ram might be in there.
Incredible. It's a work of art. Also, it's moving. You know, Sgt. Pepper's is given credit as the album that turned rock into art, this and that. This is a work of art in a different way.
Yep.
Like so honed and sculptural and absolutely poetic, beautiful stuff. I may have more to say on it later.
Right, great. Well, my number 5 is same as Pete from earlier on, is Jet. And I've got it in for, well, one is a great song. We had the single. My dad used to buy singles every week for us, and that was one of the ones that we got when it came out. And of course, it was on the Apple record, so you had the two different sides to the single. You know, the white and the green side, and it was just fabulous. And I just remember me and my brother constantly playing it. And I didn't know what it was about then. I don't know what it's about now, 50 years later. I haven't got a clue. Some people might say it's got references to, you know, about women, marital issues. Could be about pro-feminism. Who knows? It could be anything. Could be about his dog. Could be about his horse. We don't know. But it's just catchy. It's just super, super catchy. Yeah, and it's probably his most Beatles sounding song from post Beatles, with maybe one other exception, which I'll come to slightly later. But it's very Beatles sounding. This could easily have been one of the sort of big Beatles singles. It really fits in with that sound, because there's no doubt he did try and go away from that sound for a little bit. But yeah, great song, Jet, number 5. What have you got at number 4, Pete?
Well, it's a song we've already covered. All Things Must Pass. From the same album as Isn't It a Pity? I mean, what an album, and what a lovely, lovely song. I think Jeremy summed it up perfectly earlier. It's just the instrumentation on it. It's another song I really enjoy playing on an acoustic guitar, and I love his demo version as well. Why the Beatles didn't pick up on this song, I will never know. So I'm so glad that he went off and said, "To hell with you, I'm gonna release them all anyway." I'm so glad he did. Fantastic collection of tunes, and I absolutely love All Things Must Pass. And McCartney loved it. Like McCartney, his little tribute to George, like years later, he played it. It was in the McCartney sort of live set for a few years. I think now he does something.
Does something, and he does
He gets the ukulele
on the ukulele at the end.
But I don't know what tour it was on, but he did All Things Must Pass, and yes, and he's quite a good want to choose a good song. Yeah. So All Things Must Pass. What a lovely, lovely song.
Great choice, Jeremy. What have you got in at number 4?
Well, I'm so glad you picked Instant Karma, because that makes me feel even more justified to put Cold Turkey in it.
Hey.
Cold Turkey was released just before Instant Karma, and both singles were kind of part of this experiment John Lennon was doing with, let's not record an album and then release it a year later. Let's just put these things out like telegrams from my soul. When you look at, it was recorded on September 30th, released on October 20th. That's unheard of even today.
Yeah.
I'm constantly getting advanced copies of albums a year before, or something comes out and it says it was recorded a year earlier. What were you doing all that time? I mean, I understand that there's work to be done, but I just love the immediacy of it, and you really get that in the song. Also, the subject matter. Let's talk about that. Who else was singing about heroin besides the Velvet Underground at the time in such a direct way? And he was talking about it. It's not my wife, it's my life. It's I just got off of it and I feel terrible. So that whole concept of going cold turkey came to me through this song, that whole idea of it. But the thing that's makes John a Beatle core, to his core, is that even as a 4 or 5-year-old, I could hear the song and kind of get it. I could enjoy it in a way that I only enjoy it more as I got older. But it's just so tough too. That guitar
it really rocks.
Nasty.
It's really dirty, isn't it? Dirty sort of grimy guitar sound.
He and Eric Clapton just jousting, so nasty. And there's a great live performance of it too on the Cloud album behind me, the live piece in Toronto. So cool. The other thing I would say about it is, believe it or not, it spawned a terrific cover version by Freddie Hubbard. Have you ever heard that? The instrumental version?
I do know Freddie Hubbard, obviously,
Yeah, the Red Clay album.
Classic jazzer.
Like, if you listen to that, it gives you a different insight into the song, because it's such a powerful rock song with these kind of nasty lyrics and the screaming and all that stuff. When you hear Freddie Hubbard do it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, but this is also a musical composition, and one that has more than one perspective that you can bring to it. So good.
Yeah, that screaming at the end, it is like,
he was doing the final scream
terrifying.
therapy, right, with Arthur Janoff, and he uses that on Mother as well.
Yeah, the scream therapy, wasn't it?
It's powerful.
Primal scream.
So real and immediate.
Well, my number 4, very different, but it is a John song, and it was originally written for the White Album, and a bit like the one that you mentioned earlier on, Pete. This one is "Oh My Love." It's just beautiful. Song about love, opening your world. It's gentle, it's vulnerable. It just makes you want to cry. It is so simple. It's so beautiful. It's so simple. It's so short. Because you're waiting for another verse to come on and it's finished. You go, oh, right, okay, 2 minutes.
It's a little like Julia, in that you almost feel you're not supposed to be hearing something so intimate and interior. You know what I mean? It's like this circular, very interior melody and sentiment. So you feel almost like this privilege of being let in on that. Oh,
it goes hand in hand with love, So, "Oh My Love," it's absolutely beautiful, though. It really tears at you when you hear. You go, "Oh, that is absolutely perfect." It really is perfect song. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the guitar work on that is lovely, like, so just perfect, like understated.
Yeah,
it fits with the song, not being too flashy. Just lovely.
That's all you want. So my number 4 is "Oh My Love."
Nice.
What have you got at number 3 then, Pete?
Well, I'm sticking with me soppy theme. But this one's not soppy man and woman or man and wife or whatever. This one's soppy Paul and John. Here Today from Tug of War. I remember doing the Magical Mystery Tour, bus tour around Liverpool. And I think they went past the church hall, or the site of the church hall where they first met, and like going through the speakers on the bus is "Here Today," and there was a tear, going down my cheek. What can you say about this song? Like, the acoustic guitar, the way it like slides into its first note, and then it's just the emotions. It's again, like, I mean, music does get you, doesn't it? And I've got a version. I think he recorded it at like Tower Records or something in like Los Angeles, and you hear his voice crack.
Right.
This is years after the fact. This isn't 1980. This is probably in the 2000s. and you can hear his voice crack when he sings it, and that emotion is there, like for everybody to hear. It's like quite a brave song to put out. You know, he says he loves them for the whole world to hear.
Yeah.
They didn't always get on, but you know, what a lovely, lovely way to like honor your friend by putting that.
No, it's fabulous, fabulous choice. Fabulous choice. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great choice. Jeremy, what have you got at number 3?
Number 3 is already been mentioned, Band on the Run. I could have picked almost any song from that album, but it has to be represented. It's a super solid album, and one that I was concerned about when I originally bought it on CD, but I was trying to like fill in my kids on the solo work. So I just started buying things. I never heard the album in its entirety before. So many of the singles were on the radio, but the whole thing holds together very well. I was happy to find out. It sounds beautiful when you think about some of the chaos behind the recording, where they were in Lagos and then the tapes got stolen and they had to re-put the songs back together by memory, according to Paul. They had these arrangements worked out, and
Band
but
quit.
it sounds so powerful.
Band quit the day before.
Obviously, the strings are a huge part of it. I think Tony Visconti's arrangement is terrific. One of the best string arrangers in the game. In fact, he went out publicly this year to say,
I've seen that.
Yeah, the thing he really didn't like about Now and Then was the string arrangement he thought was deadly dull. And he's not entirely, I wouldn't go that far, but it could have definitely been better.
I think it's a great song. I have to say, I think it's a great song there, but there you have it, yeah.
Yeah,
But
the string
I see
arrangement
what he
could
was
have
getting
been a
at.
little, could have given it a little more depth and complexity, but he's just so good at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But really, it's just down to the song. And Paul, obviously, he started doing this on Abbey Road, where he's stitching stuff together. But instead of making it a whole side, he does it in a song. And he did that on Ram as well with Bill Albert. And like very few people have that skill to be able to make those connections and make it all flow. And you're absolutely right. It just sounds great. Those opening chords, the sing-along chorus, everything just sounds fantastic.
I love that little middle bit. If I ever get out of here, it's great.
And great guitar on that. Denny Lane, who we just lost, played some great
bless him.
on that.
Yeah.
So Paul McCartney, I mean, there's a lot of good Wings songs, but you might as well go with that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm carrying on the soppy theme here because my number 3 is the other song that could have easily been a Beatles song, and it's Maybe I'm Amazed, which is, it's just unbelievable. Again, if they just released an album in 1970, this would have been on it. This would have been up there with The Long and Winding Road. It's as good a song, and it's one of my favorite Beatles songs, by the way, that one. And it's unbelievably beautiful. Love song to Linda. It's just remarkable. The piano's great. The sentiment's magnificent. When I see them, he did a song for his wife. He's married again. I forget his wife's name now, so forgive me for that. But he did a song for her, and it was all right. And then he goes, and this is one I wrote for Linda. And he does. He does Maybe I'm Amazed. You go, wow, that's quite a difference in quality. Like, you know? It's because it is one of the greatest ballads. It's so beautiful. It's and it's such an unusual song on that album because the whole album's quite lo-fi, and then you get this beautiful track sort of just on there. You go, oh, all right, that's different.
His vocal is pretty incredible on that song.
It's just incredible. And if folks, if you get the chance to go and listen to it, and you've not heard it, go and listen to the Faces version of Maybe I'm Amazed as well, which is unbelievable. And it's as good as this, in my opinion, which takes some doing. Ronnie Lane at the beginning with the beautiful vocals, and then Rod coming in and he's pumping. It's marvelous, absolutely rocks. So yeah, brilliant. Maybe I'm Amazed. Number 3. What have you got at number 2 then?
Well, I've got my only cover version, and it's from John Lennon's rock and roll album, and it's Stand By Me.
Yeah.
I absolutely love. I mean, it's a great song. I don't know if it's from the 50s or the early 60s, but John Lennon's version and Phil Spector producing, like I always really enjoyed the rock and roll album. It does have that 70s sound to it, like the horn section and like everything. It does have that Phil Spector production, but I love the way this song just starts with that acoustic guitar, like dampened acoustic guitar. Um, his voice is amazing. His vocal, I love it.
Yeah.
I saw U2 on the Joshua Tree tour,
Yeah.
1987 at Wembley Stadium. And what they did was they played the John Lennon version of this song, and they just walked on stage while the John Lennon version was playing, and they slowly turned John Lennon down and turned themselves up.
Right.
And by the end of the song, it was just U2 playing. And I thought, what a way to start a show.
Wow. That's
Great.
bold.
Like, I love that song.
Well, interestingly, when I saw U2 last, they came onto Space Oddity,
Yeah.
and I was thinking that's quite a hard song to follow up because it was absolutely belting out as well. So yeah, it's quite a tough song to beat after that. Like, but yeah, they were great minded. Yeah. What have you got at number 2? Great choice though. What have you got at number 2, Jeremy?
Number 2, I have another song from All Things Must Pass, and it is the deepest of deep cuts, the last song on side 4, which is called Hear Me, Lord.
Oh.
And often when I say that that is probably my favorite George Harrison song of all time, people say, you mean My Sweet Lord? And I go, no, it's called Hear Me, Lord. It's on the same album. You could listen to it if you wanted to. But I don't know when this song got its hooks into me. It might have been when I got that remastered version. And I was just like, wait, what was that? And now I've spent hours just trying to find as many bootleg versions as I can. I only have about 4 or 5, including one that's an extended take from the recording sessions without vocals. And I just love the chord changes are just so intense. It just kind of seems to drive right into your soul. I just think it's a fantastic song. He did all the backing vocals too. It wasn't a choir of people on there. He just overdubbed and overdubbed. I don't think he gets a lot of credit for doing stuff like that, you know. Obviously there's a lot of other people on it. Clapton and Gary Wright again playing incredible piano. Bobby Whitlock on organ, Billy Preston keyboards, Carl Radle, Jim Gordon. So it's all of Derek and the Dominoes, except for Dwayne Allman is on there. Jim Price and Bobby Keys playing sax and trumpet. Man, it's just one of those songs I can listen to it 4 or 5 times in a row and not get tired of it. There's something about it, and it seems so searching. A lot of people are like, well, it's a religious song. He's singing to God and this and that. Well, I'm not a religious person, but I just connect it to sort of the naked need for help, for approval, for inspiration, for all the things that he's looking for. I really think it's a great song, and what a way to end an album too. Just absolutely fantastic.
Interesting choice. Wasn't expecting that. Well, my number 2 is a John song. It was written in 1978, and apparently John was quite lazy when it came to writing songs. And he finished it in 1980. So wrote it in 78, most of it, and then finished it properly in 1980 when he changed the lyrics. Apparently, famously, he once said, if it wasn't for Paul, the Beatles' back catalogue would be about a third of what it turned out to be. But Paul just kept pushing with the right songs. So, and my number 2 is I'm Losing You, which I just think is brilliant. You know, it's a fabulous tune. You've got, I mean, the musicianship's brilliant on it. You've got Earl Slick on guitar, you've got Tony Levin on bass, you know, Peter Gabriel's bass player, you've got Andy Newmark, who's an incredible drummer. So the band themselves, he's got the cream of the crop on backing, but Slick's guitar is brilliant on it. I remember talking to him once, and he's referring to playing on that and how proud he was, and just wanted to leave a lot of lovely riffs, but leave a lot of space on it to let the song sort of breathe, which it does. And the sentiments are interesting as well. It's about the feeling that you're losing someone in a relationship, and he was worried about losing Yoko, and also the fact that he felt that she couldn't forgive him for what happened earlier on in the relationship. And so he's got little references throughout the song to it as well. So he's clearly very insecure. He's clearly very insecure with regards to everything in life, really. But it just hits us. It's one of those songs that just hits you. It's quite simple, lovely little song in here. It just sort of, it just gets you, and you think, wow, what a, I think it is anyway. But what a beautiful, beautiful song.
Have you ever heard the alternate take with Cheap
Yes,
Trick
which is
backing him
also
up?
great. Stripped back,
Yeah.
even more stripped back version is
I
fabulous.
love that version. I mean, the album version is great, but the one with Cheap Trick backing him up is just
Yeah.
ridiculously good.
Yeah.
So funky and dirty once again. I think he often polished things up quite a bit
Yeah, and
for final release. So when you listen to demo and alternate takes,
well, apparently the band listens to the Cheap Trick version when they were recording at the time. From what I was reading about it, which I didn't realize. So yeah, my number two, I'm Losing You. It's a masterpiece.
Song.
Like, really is a great tune.
Excellent.
So Pete, we're down to the top tune. What have we got at number one?
It's your number three. It's Maybe I'm Amazed.
Yeah.
What a song! Like, as you say, on that McCartney album, there isn't really anything like this. I don't know if there's anything like this in the rest of his career. It's in the guitar solo.
Yeah.
Well, I think he plays the same guitar solo twice. So the first time I heard this song will have been on Wings Over America, the live album, which was like 76, 77. So it was probably quite a few years after that I finally heard the solo McCartney version. And I was like, wow, like McCartney's playing that. Great guitar solo. He did some good guitar solos in the Beatles, but blew me away that
for a second there,
as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just what a tune. He must have been going through a difficult time, and to be able to write this lovely song when he's obviously going through a rough patch. I think he retreated to Scotland, didn't he?
Yeah.
And when the Beatles broke up, had a bit of a breakdown, he said. And to be able to produce this is incredible.
I think he needed to prove that he could do it all on his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was any doubt though, was there really? Let's be honest. Especially when you watch the Get Back documentary, it was just ridiculously how talented he is.
I don't think he even tried to give this to the Beatles, did he?
I don't know. Not that I know.
There was a few songs from McCartney that, like Junk and stuff. He played.
Right, yeah.
Teddy Boy, I think,
he
as well.
Tried to give this to the Beatles. I think he knew this is going to be me, my first Beatles song.
Yeah, top tune. Can't complain about that one. Jeremy, what have you got at number one?
Number one, I kind of threw up my hands thinking about all the songs that weren't on this list, and I went with another from Plastic Ono Band, which is The Mighty God. Who does that? Who names a song God? And then starts out with the line, God is a concept by which we measure our pain. And then he sings it again because it's so hard to what is he talking about? And then he goes down that list of all the things he doesn't believe in anymore. And you feel him just trying to separate himself, unlike Paul, who was sort of, I'm going to just do all this on my own and become a big pop star. John was still just wrestling with what had happened to him and just having to reject all those things. He rejects Dylan, he rejects the Kennedys, he rejects the Beatles. It's so powerful. And then he just brings it to a close. I don't believe in these things. I believe in Yoko and me. And we're gonna, so it's almost the opposite of isolation, where instead of feeling so lonely together, they're feeling so strong together that they can eliminate all these other things from their life. And it's just a powerful recording. That whole album, we've said, we've all agreed, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a song that could just make somebody's career with that song. And for him, it was just a song, I really think that it's just it's an unusual song in so many ways, structurally, melodically, lyrically, and he pulls it off incredibly. What a great song.
Great
God.
choice. What a choice. What a song.
Yeah.
Yeah. A life affirming song, I would say. My number one is one that nobody's mentioned. It's 1985 of the Band on the Run album. It's just brilliant. It's one of my ringtones to wake us up. It's sometimes Slade's Goodbye to Jane, or it's that. It's just brilliant. I mean, again, it's a song about love, future love, but nothing will compare to the present love. It's just brilliant, man. The whole song's fantastic. I love the it starts up with the keys, little break, little sort of soft opening. The bass is brilliant on it. The bass is really high on it as well. He plays high physically on the bass. And it really sort of rocks in, and then the band come in. His drumming's excellent on it, actually. The drumming's really, really good. So the musicianship is top draw on this. I love the orchestration at the end as well, again by Tony Visconti. That really adds to it and builds it up to a massive ending, because the ending is huge before it then goes into the sort of little references to the rest of the album. It's such a catchy song. It's one of those songs I think that has really grown in terms of public consciousness over the years. He did it at the gig when I seen him, and there was a massive roar amongst the crowd, because everybody obviously knew it. And I seen him do it on Jules Holland a number of years ago, and he did a great version. He did 3 songs of Bound on the Run. It must have been like a 40th anniversary or something at the time. And I think the same tour I seen him on, and it was breathtaking. Just does a great version of it live. But it's my favorite post Beatles song. I knew what was going to be number one, and it was trying to work out what the rest were going to be.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there we go. So let's quickly whiz through some honourable mentions. We could be here all day, so we'll just quickly name some. So Pete, which ones have you got as possible honourable mentions?
If I was going to choose another Ringo song, it would have been Photograph.
Yes, yeah.
A George song from the Ringo album. Lovely tune, great pop song. Some of the George stuff. I love George's slide guitar. And off the Brainwashed album, Any Road. I think the guitar work on Any Road is fantastic. John, nobody's mentioned Imagine. I don't know if it's too cliched or whatever, but you know,
it's Jealous Guy.
The Jealous Guy, yes, The Child of Nature. McCartney, he's got a few. I do like the slot. I don't mind his silly love songs, as he calls them.
I love some of them.
My Love. What a tune! If you could go away and write My Love, I think I would just sit down and write. I've just written the best song ever. And for him, it's just stick it on an album. Some of the stuff on the early Backseat of My Car. That's just it's a whole sort of Bohemian Rhapsody sort of. I'll just get 6 songs and shove them all together and create this lovely whole. He was a very clever man.
Great choices. Jeremy?
I was really sad to leave off anything from Living in the Material World. It's a really solid album. It's nearly as good as All Things Must Pass. You had Give Me Love on there.
I did, yeah.
The Light That Has Lighted the World is so beautiful. Don't Let Me Wait Too Long, just a gorgeous love song. The Lord Loves the One That Loves the Lord. Another religious song that just somehow gets under your skin. Also, Living in the Material World is a great song. Sue Me, Sue You Blues is a kind of hilarious, snarky song about the Beatles, battling it out in the boardrooms of their business people. I was sad to see that go. I also do like the Brainwashed album quite a bit.
Yes, I do as well.
Instrumental on there. I can't remember the name of it, but I was thinking of including that. And you know what else is great? The Wonderwall music, the soundtrack.
All right, yes.
That George Harrison did. I was almost thinking of being snarky and putting one of those things in there. There's a lot of good stuff on there. It's beautifully recorded, and he plays some amazing guitar stuff on there. It's so good. And when it comes to Lennon, obviously Imagine is a beautiful song. I love the whole Walls and Bridges album. A lot of things from Double Fantasy. there's just too many good songs. Paul, the Ram album is pretty big to me. When I was a kid, I just thought it was
great.
a Beatles album.
It's a great album.
I really was convinced it was a Beatles album. I didn't know there was no separation for me between Let It Be and Ram. But I also like Riding to Vanity Fair. There's a terrific song, one where he finally gets a little edge in there. I'm always looking for that for some reason, but I just felt like he had something to say, and he figured out a poetic way to say that we can all resonate with. A little annoyed that he did not include that in his book of lyrics. And I think it's maybe just because he doesn't want to let people know exactly who he was singing about in that song. I don't know who it was stuff, but I like that he was giving vent to something more than just either nonsense or a love song. I think that's one of his great latter day songs. Ringo, Back Off Boogaloo. I've always loved that song.
Yeah, good song.
The whole Ringo
Very
album
glam,
is pretty
isn't it?
solid. The next one is pretty good. Goodnight Vienna has some good stuff on it, although you can hear that same thing that happened to Harry Nilsson, where it's just overindulgent and kind of smug, but it's still got some good stuff on there. Every once in a while, I'll hear a song from one of his later albums. Ringo's Rotogravure has a few good songs on there.
Yeah.
And that was recorded, I believe, with Alan Toussaint in New Orleans, who had a lot of trouble making anything sound bad in the studio. You know what I'm saying? So there are a lot of good songs out there.
Good choices.
Sure.
Good choices. Well, I'll just whiz through mine, because Let 'Em In was one of them, which I absolutely love. It's just lovely about his family, bizarrely like a party. I just love it. Things like Love, Isolation, Oh Yoko, I Found Out, Dear Boy, Fine Line, Sea Moon, which I love, even though it's just daft but lovely.
Yeah.
No More Lonely Nights is brilliant.
Yeah, good song.
Beautiful Night is brilliant. Fish in the Sand, When We Was Fab, P2 Vatican Blues, I've got written down here, which I think is a great song, Stuck Inside a Cloud, Nine Dream. Then I've got some of the covers. I've said, well, the duet stuff like Handle with Care, CCC. But the other two that I thought were sort of out there, but I was almost tempted to put one of them in, was the demos he did with Elvis Costello, Just Like Candy and My Brave Face are both brilliant. They're both miles better than the album versions.
Yeah.
The demos are much better. McCartney's is awful, My Brave Face. It's terrible. But the demo is miles better. It sounds like a Beatles track. It's almost like him and John in the room playing together. It sounds great.
Yeah.
But we killed it by overproducing it and putting this
interesting
big gloss on it. So yeah, those are my choices. So
I've got one guilty pleasure to announce as well. Temporary Secretary.
Well, he played that live when I seen him.
I heard that he's been playing that live. Yeah, that is a fun song, and one that you'll hear.
I think it's a 13-year-old sequence, I think, at the start.
Yeah, I was waiting for the frog chorus there, which I do actually like, but that's by the by. You know, I do genuinely like it. But
since we are near Christmas, we should mention not Christmas, simply having a wonderful Christmas time, but the John Lennon Christmas
Happy
song.
Christmas.
It's actually rather nice.
Yeah, I like both of them. I like both of them. I think they're both excellent.
Yeah.
So on that note, folks, send in your lists. I'm no doubt you'll disagree. Some of you may agree, but we'll see what the poll comes out like. Hope you enjoy the show. More importantly, please subscribe as well. We're getting viewers and not subscribing, so please just click the like and subscribe button. It's dead easy. Thanks for watching, and send in your reviews, and take care till the next time. From Pete, Jeremy, and myself. Bye-bye.
Bye now.